Have you ever noticed how, as time passes, the dynamics between parents and children shift? At first, you're the guiding force, the unwavering source of support. But then, one day, something changes, something subtle but powerful. Maybe your advice is met with silence, or your opinions dismissed. Perhaps they no longer value your words, and worse, they make you feel like a burden. It's a painful reality, but it's one that many parents face. But what if I told you there's a way to regain your respect not by fighting, not by arguing, but through simple, powerful shifts in how you respond? Today, I'll show you how to make those changes and restore the respect you deserve. There comes a moment in every parent's life when the roles begin to reverse. You've spent decades raising your children, guiding them through life, sacrificing your own desires for theirs, and doing everything in your power to ensure their happiness. But then, a day arrives when something feels different. Maybe they brush off your advice, as if it's nothing more than noise. Or perhaps they start to talk down to you, dismissing your opinions as irrelevant. And then there's the hardest part. They make you feel like a burden. It stings. The hurt can be overwhelming. If you've found yourself in this situation, it's easy to feel frustrated, even angry. It's tempting to want to remind them of everything you've done for them, the countless years you spent putting their needs ahead of your own. But here's the cold truth. Getting angry won't fix it. In fact, it often makes things worse. The truth is, there's a far more effective way to regain their respect without fighting, without arguments, and without resentment. In today's video, I'm going to share 6 powerful shifts you can make when your children no longer show you the respect you deserve. These are small but impactful changes in how you respond, and they can completely transform the way your children perceive and respect you. Some of these might surprise you, but if you stick with me until the end, you'll discover exactly how to regain your place as a valued, respected figure in your children's lives. Let's dive in. Action 1. Stop chasing their approval. One of the most common mistakes parents make, especially as they age, is trying too hard to please their children. Maybe you've caught yourself doing this. You go out of your way to accommodate them, saying yes when you really want to say no, and putting their needs ahead of your own. The hope is that if you do enough, they'll appreciate you more, and maybe, just maybe, they'll respect you again. But here's the painful truth. The more you chase their approval, the less they respect you. Respect isn't earned through sacrifice it's earned through self-respect. When you constantly bend over backward, always giving in, always trying to keep the peace, what you're really teaching them is that your feelings come second. Once they start believing that, it's easy for them to take you for granted. I once knew a woman named Margaret, a strong, independent woman in her younger years. But as she got older, she began to let her children make all the decisions for her. She rearranged her schedule around their needs, kept her opinions to herself, and even ignored the way they spoke down to her. "I just want to keep the family together," she told me one day. But what happened? Her children stopped valuing her. They saw her as someone who would always adjust, always agree, and always stay silent. She thought she was keeping the peace, but in reality, she was losing her voice. If your children are treating you with disrespect, the first step isn't to keep sacrificing yourself. It's to regain your self-respect, to assert your boundaries, and to remind them that you are deserving of the same respect you've always given them. Let's explore how to make this shift in the next steps, so stay with me. Action 2. Don't argue. Lead by example. When your children dismiss your opinions, talk over you, or treat you with disrespect, your first instinct might be to argue, to remind them of everything you've done for them, or to demand that they listen to you. But let me tell you something that will save you years of frustration. Arguing never works. Think about it. When was the last time you convinced someone to respect you by fighting for it? Respect is not earned through words. It is earned through your presence, through the way you carry yourself, and through the way you respond when others try to test your patience. If you meet disrespect with anger, all you're doing is confirming what they already believe, that they have power over you. I remember a man named Frank, a retired teacher who had spent his life leading a classroom with confidence. But when he came home, his grown children started treating him like an afterthought. They ignored his advice, dismissed his concerns, and sometimes even laughed when he tried to correct them. At first, Frank argued back, trying to prove that he still deserved their respect. But the more he fought, the worse things got. Then one day, Frank made a change. Instead of arguing, he started listening, really listening. He stopped chasing respect with words and instead carried himself like a man who already had it. He spoke calmly, with wisdom, without the need to win. Slowly, his children began to notice. They saw a man who wasn't desperate for their approval, who didn't need to prove himself, but who simply was a figure of strength. If your children don't respect you, don't fight them for it. Show them what respect looks like by the way you treat yourself. Keep your dignity, speak with confidence, and most importantly, never lower yourself to their level. Because when you hold your ground with grace, they will feel it, and in time, they'll start following your lead. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Your support helps us continue creating valuable content for you. Now, let's move forward with the next action. Action 3. Withdraw your emotional dependence. One of the hardest lessons to learn as you grow older is that you can't depend on your children for emotional fulfillment. You may love them deeply, and you may want them to love and respect you in return, but the moment they sense that you need them to feel valued, the power in the relationship will begin to shift. Are you ready for this shift? Let's explore how to stop being emotionally dependent on your children and how they can come to recognize your value without you demanding or arguing for it. Here's the reality. People, even your own children, respect those who are emotionally independent. When you rely on them for validation, affection, or attention, it puts pressure on them. Instead of feeling grateful, they start feeling burdened. They might pull away, and they might start treating you with impatience or even irritation. And the more you chase their love, the less freely they give it. I once knew a woman named Helen, a kind-hearted mother who had given everything to her children. As they grew older and became busier with their own lives, she found herself waiting by the phone, hoping they would call. When they didn't, she called them instead often. Too often. She reminded them how much she missed them and how she wished they would visit more. But instead of drawing them closer, it pushed them away. They began to see her calls as an obligation rather than something they looked forward to. Then one day, Helen did something different. She stopped waiting. She stopped calling first. Instead, she started focusing on herself, picking up new hobbies, going out with friends, and taking care of her own happiness. And something surprising happened. Her children started calling more. They began respecting her time, seeing her as someone with a full life of her own. The lesson is simple. The less you depend on your children to make you feel needed, the more they will begin valuing your presence. When you show them that you can stand strong on your own, they will start respecting you not out of obligation, but because they genuinely admire the life you've built for yourself. Action 4. Set boundaries and enforce them. One of the biggest reasons children lose respect for their parents is because parents allow it. If you allow your children to talk to you disrespectfully, dismiss your opinions, or treat you as if your time and feelings don't matter, they will continue doing it. Not because they are bad people, but because people, especially family, will always treat you the way you allow them to. Setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting off your children or creating conflict. It means calmly and firmly deciding what kind of behavior you will and will not accept. And more importantly, it means enforcing those boundaries when they are crossed. I remember a man named Robert, a retired businessman who had spent his life running a company with discipline and confidence. But when it came to his adult children, he struggled. They interrupted him when he spoke, dismissed his concerns, and even criticized the way he lived his life. At first, he tolerated it, telling himself it wasn't worth the fight. But over time, he realized that every time he stayed silent, he was teaching them that their behavior was acceptable. So one day, Robert changed his approach. When his son interrupted him, he calmly said, "You can continue speaking when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his opinion, he simply replied, "You don't have to agree, but you must respect my opinion." By doing this, Robert taught his children that respect comes from consistent actions and calm authority, not from avoiding conflict or giving in. As a parent, have you ever felt like you've given too much and lost your respect from your children? Robert's story continues to unfold as we explore the next step in regaining your voice in your relationship with your children without the need for arguments. Let's continue discovering this valuable lesson in the next section. Action 5. Stop giving without appreciation. One of the quickest ways to lose respect is by constantly giving to people who don't appreciate it. As parents, we often do this more than we realize. We give our time, energy, and support even when it's not acknowledged, even when it's taken for granted, and even when we're met with nothing but entitlement. But here's the truth. When you give to someone who doesn't appreciate it, you don't build love or respect, you build expectation. They stop seeing your kindness as something valuable and start seeing it as something they are entitled to. And the moment you stop, they don't feel grateful, they feel inconvenienced. I once knew a man named George, a father who had always been generous with his children. He helped them financially whenever they needed it, dropped everything to assist them, and even rearranged his life to accommodate their needs. But instead of gratitude, he was met with complaints. They didn't say thank you, they expected more, and the worst part was, when he finally needed their help, they were too busy. Then one day, George made a change. He stopped overextending himself. He stopped offering help before it was even asked. And most importantly, he started saying no when he needed to. At first, his children were frustrated. They didn't understand why he wasn't bending over backward for them anymore. But over time, something shifted. They started valuing his time. They started appreciating his efforts because suddenly they realized that his generosity wasn't unlimited. It was a gift, not a guarantee. If you feel like your children don't respect your time, effort, or kindness, take a step back and ask yourself, are you giving more than you should? And if so, what would happen if you stopped? Because when you teach people that your generosity is conditional on respect, they will start treating it that way. Action 6. Build a life outside of your children. When you begin to learn how to take care of yourself and build a life outside of your relationship with your children, you not only make yourself healthier, but also help create a stronger, more sustainable relationship with them. Let me explain this in the next section, where I will share how to create a fulfilling life beyond your connection with your children. To continue the journey of regaining your children's respect, one of the most powerful ways you can do this is by showing them that your happiness doesn't revolve around them. As parents, it's natural to devote ourselves to our children, making them the center of our lives. However, as time goes on, that dynamic needs to shift, and if you've spent your entire life prioritizing them, they may start to see you as someone who has nothing else going on. In reality, respect is often given to those who have their own purpose, their own interests, and a sense of fulfillment. When your children see you relying on them for entertainment, validation, or meaning, they might feel suffocated, or worse, begin to see you as someone with no life of your own. I remember a woman named Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s. After her husband passed away, she poured everything into her children's lives, constantly checking in, offering advice they hadn't asked for, hoping they would fill the space her husband once did. But instead of drawing them closer, she pushed them away. Their visits became less frequent, their calls shorter, and Eleanor felt more isolated than ever. Then she made a choice. She joined a book club, started traveling with friends, and volunteered at a local community center. She stopped making her children the center of her world, and something incredible happened. Her children started reaching out more. They were curious about what she was doing, admired her independence, and began to respect her. So, if your children don't respect you, ask yourself, do they see you as someone with a full and meaningful life? Or do they see you as someone waiting around for their attention? When you show them that you are living, not just existing, they will begin to see you in a completely different light. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Final thoughts. Respect is not something you can demand from your children. It's something you inspire through the way you carry yourself, through the way you set boundaries, and through the way you live your life. If they have started treating you with less care or respect, don't waste your energy getting angry. Instead, shift your approach. Stop chasing their approval, because the less you need it, the more they'll give it. Lead by example, because your dignity speaks louder than your words. Withdraw your emotional dependence, because the more self-sufficient you are, the more they'll respect your presence. Set boundaries, because people will only treat you as well as you require them to. Stop giving without appreciation. Continuing from what we discussed earlier, when generosity is no longer appreciated, it loses its true value. But more importantly, you need to build a life outside of your relationships. Because people respect those who have their own purpose, their own joy, and their own sense of fulfillment. When you do this, something wonderful will happen. Your children will start seeing you in a different light, not as someone waiting for their attention, but as someone who commands respect simply by being themselves. And over time, that respect will come back to you, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Thank you for joining us today. We would love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to apply it to your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating quality content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.